Hey there, my faithful followers. I appreciate your service in terms of following me for so many years. I know that I have a lot of people who have followed me nigh almost 20 years now. Even though this particular account, the Branching Vine, is not as big as the Vine Rhyme account was. When I had the Vine Rhyme account, I remember getting into arguments with atheists and whatnot, and some of their objections to the biblical account of creation and whatnot was that these stars up in the heavens were many millions of light years away. And for a long time, it was a real conundrum for me. And I posted a video talking about a Christian brother's book called Starlight in Time. I'm not sure if anybody out there remembers when I went through that phase talking about the stars. And here's the thing, there is actually no way for us to actually know how far away a star is. There's a couple of ways we measure distance when we're talking long distances. The first one is the Pythagorean system, which is triangulation. But with triangulation, the furthest you can actually determine a thing to be is no more than 300 light years away. And so that's still much closer to the Earth than the claims made for, many of these stars out there that are millions of light years away. And they claim that Betelgeuse or Alpha Centauri, I think it was Alpha Centauri, was something like 70,000 light years away. And so their argument was, if the stars are so far out there, how could God have created the Earth in 6 literal days, rested on the 7th, and the Earth only about 7 to 15,000 years old at the most? Because the stars it would take the starlight, millions of years to reach the Earth. Well, I realized that now that I have, at least to my position, because I used to believe in the globe and in space and all of that, and I was trying to argue with these people from the standpoint of their science. And now I realize, through observation, through experiments and whatnot that people have done, we do not live in the system that they say we live in. We are on a flat plane. The sun, moon, and the stars are much smaller and significantly closer. And all things being equal, if you actually were to take the actual solid evidence that NASA presents to us versus what the flat Earth has that you can observe yourself, flat Earth wins hands down without exception. The flat Earth can be proven if you'll simply trust your own observation, your own experience. You know that it's stationary. You don't feel it spinning. Even a glass of water on a table, if the Earth was spinning at some 1,000 some odd miles an hour, and then in addition rotating around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, and then going through space at a tremendous amount of space too, and then we're also on an axis and it's wobbling, you would think that any body of water would be disturbed. A little glass of water would always have at least some faint ripples in it. You don't see that. But I realized that the starlight in time argument that I used to make, because I believed in the science too, until my eyes were open, I realized that we were arguing with atheists and other unbelievers over science, as the Apostle Paul said, falsely so called. We were arguing about a paradigm or a type of universe that doesn't even exist. We weren't arguing the way God actually made it, a flat Earth with a dome over the top of it, and these heavenly bodies are significantly smaller and significantly closer. And if we were arguing for that standpoint, then we wouldn't have to have gone to the length of trying to stretch our imaginations to believe in wrinkles in space so that the light actually comes to us quicker, or come up with a lot of other ridiculous ideas that we did to try to explain how starlight and time could have reached the earth if, and been seen on the earth if they were supposedly millions or even billions of light years out there, or even several 100,000 years out there. We didn't need all that. All we needed to do was understand that God created a flat plane for the earth, and he put the luminaries in the skies that rotate around us. We are not moving. And we have a dome over the top of this, so there's no outer space as we claim, as was claimed by scientists. And perhaps people say, they used to say, we can't get through the Van Allen's belt, etc., whatever. They just make up excuse after excuse. NASA's come out and said we can't return back to the moon because we lost that technology, even though we can send a rover to Mars, supposedly, even though it's actually up in Greenland or Iceland somewhere on a barren plain, and that's what you're actually getting. It's photographs from Earth. But anyway, so I realize now that starlight is not a real problem when you understand the way God actually created this place and where we actually live. It's only a huge problem when we allow ourselves to be carried off with the unbelievers' narratives that there's an outer space and that there are planets and stars light years away. And if we play into their fantasy, that paradigm, we're going to have a real hard time explaining things. But if we had just followed what God said in the scriptures to begin with, and understood that we don't live in that kind of a universe, that's not the way God created it, then the question of the starlight and time, it becomes irrelevant, because they're very close and much smaller, and they are under the dome. Anyway, I just thought I'd point that out to you. By the way, the UFO phenomenon, the aliens from faraway worlds invading us, which will be a card that they will eventually play, the elites will eventually play, will also fall apart if we are in an enclosed system and there is no outer space, because there is no world far, far away for these beings to come from. So that would come if people by and large understood where they actually lived. When they tried to pull the alien invasion card, people everywhere would know better. But because they've been led to believe in outer space and worlds far, far away, they will believe that lie, and it will be a strong delusion. I have learned over the years many times I've been wrong about things, and God has always been right. And if I had listened to his word from the beginning, I wouldn't have erred and made a fool out of myself trying to defend myself with science, falsely so called.